What up, tech supporters? Paradox back with more. We're here today to go over a camshaft swap and exactly what it takes to get down to the camshaft. It's going to involve having to remove the harmonic balancer. You're going to also have to take the belt off of the car. The brackets aren't on the vehicle right now because they're really not in our way unless we are taking off the belt. So once you take off the belt, that really has nothing to do with it. I also have in the other video how to remove the balancer. So I'm just going to kind of go in order of operations for you on how we're just going to get straight to the camshaft today. The very first thing that you'd have to do is you're going to have a burp tube on your Mustang. That's going to be where one of these two is, and it's a black thing. A black tube with a mount, I believe an 8 or 10 millimeter mount that's going to come up and go to the overflow burp function of your coolant system on your Mustang V. This is from a different Essex motor, so it's just not there. So you're going to take that and you're going to remove that burp tube, and then once that comes out, you're going to be looking at removal of your harmonic balancer, which is going to be a 21 millimeter bolt that I already have loosened and ready to go. That will come out. And then you're going to use your harmonic balancer tool to remove this. It uses like a 3 clamp action where it's going to be able to pull this out. So after you've removed the belt and you're going to popped off the overflow, you're going to remove your balancer. And I end up using this as a tool throughout the rest of the procedure. That's the reason why I kind of remove it first, is just to kind of get it ready. So what we're looking at for you guys is this is really where it kind of gets down to what you'd have to remove for your water pump in your front cover. You actually don't have to remove the water pump. That's what's cool. Over time, I've learned that I used to take it off every single time, and then a gasket costed me 15 bucks. So I've learned how to actually take it off and not even have to remove that gasket. In order to do that, you're going to have to remove the front cover without removing the water pump, the fuel housing, or the filter. It's optional. I mean, you could take it all off if you wanted to, but I've just learned how to take it all off without having to remove these items. So what we're going to actually start doing is you're going to end up removing the 13 millimeter stud bolts. That would be right here, here, and here. So those three, a 4, a 5, and a 6. Those are all going to be, I believe, 13 millimeter stud bolts, and that's going to be the top half of the front cover. And then you're going to have a single 10 millimeter right here for right above the oil filter housing. And then as well as you're going to have two 15 millimeters over here. So you're going to have to remove these entirely. So after I remove the two 15s, you know, look like that. I'll usually poke these into a box, and then I'll be able to put, you know, front cover in that position and be able to recover its position, but I know exactly where it goes. So after I remove the 215, the 110, this is where everybody gets frustrated and they end up, they'll remove, so you have to remove 2 to, I believe, 3. Yep, so 1, 2, 3, and there'll be 4 of a total different oil pan bolts that you have to remove to get this front cover off. So it will be 1, 2, just like this one right here, 3, and 4. So once you remove those bolts, you don't have to remove the oil pan, but you have to remove them for it to have the oil pan release the front cover from the oil pan. So the reason why I saved this bolt in here is it's the only weird smaller one. I just keep that in there because this is the one smaller bolt. There's 2 longer bolts out of all of the oil pan bolts if you take the oil pan off, that go across the back too. And then this is the short one across the front, is always going to go right in that front corner. So once those are out, a lot of people right here will struggle and they'll say, why in the hell isn't my front cover coming off? And it's because they don't know that there's actually a pocket T30 right here. I've positioned the camera to make sure it can set up and see. So a lot of people end up bending their front cover when they're trying to get it off because they don't see this little pocket T30 that's right there, and it's way back behind your oil sender housing. So you're able to hit that with a T30 extension wrench. Get right in there. that. Look like that. So once you got that out, your front cover is actually ready to be removed. You can actually leave on your oil or your water pump and your oil center housing and your oil filter all when you take it off. So as of right now, after you've removed those bolts, with the gasket that's on the back, it can be reusable. It depends on what condition you can get it off in. But a lot of times right here, a lot of people have a struggle trying to get this off. And what you're going to do is you're going to look to use a like a pry bar. All I have on me right now is a 5-in-1. But you're going to want to use a pry bar or right in this spot right here where this is actually a little lever to get the front cover off is going to be right here. And then there's as well another one right here. So in between a flathead or a pry bar, in between that spot and that spot, you're going to be able to get the top off. And then as long as you got all 4 of the bottom bolts out, and then you got that pocket T30 out, you got the 10mm out, you got the 215s out, all the 13s out. The only thing that's going to be left is your camshaft position sensor. So with that, you're going to remove the 10mm that it takes to remove the camshaft positioning sensor. And since you're going to end up having to retime the engine anyways, you don't really have to be too super fragile with your camshaft positioning sensor. You're able to just kind of take it out. And that's your CPS. Check out my videos. I go over in the whole other video how to install this on the way in to get your electronic EFI on your chain timing. So once you have your CPS out, you should be able to remove your front cover. Just like that. And it will come right out. So with that, you're able to keep all this in one, and you don't have to do gaskets or really kind of drain the oil filter. You're able to take it all out. So we are at the timing of the engine. So what's going on right now is for correct timing, you're going to see that you're going to have your Woodruff key, which is the little notch that sticks out of your crank, aimed directly up. That goes directly into a dot or a dimple on this this cog. When it aims up, it's going to go straight up at the downward facing arrow, or this, it's just a straight notch in the hole, the pulley on the camshaft pulley. So when you line that up with that, you're going to see that that's on time. As well as up here, you're going to also see in the back, you may be able to see it on camera, but there's going to be a dimple on the top of an inner cog that goes to the balance shaft. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is lock this up and find like a way to stick a screwdriver in there, and you're going to get this bolt right here. Looks like it's either a 13mm or 15mm, and this is going to be the camshaft bolt to release. Once this is off, there's actually a little banjo hole on this, and a lot of people don't recognize this part, and it ends up misoiling their camshaft. So now you can see that little banjo hole right there. There's actually a O-ring on here too, and make sure that when you put this back on, it's one of the main reasons camshafts fail is because people don't recognize that that O-ring goes out, and then you have to put that back on there, or this is going to be releasing oil pressure from your camshaft bolt. So now that I showed you one of the main problems of swapping out your camshaft is actually just that little O-ring. This is going to be your camshaft positioning sensor cog, and this is actually so when you stick the camshaft positioning sensor through into the engine, say we just did the timing by hand video I showed you guys, and it locked down at 53 degrees exactly. It's going to be sitting just like that right now. So now that you've seen it in X-ray vision, that's how the camshaft positioning sensor works. So once you pull off the camshaft positioning sensor cog, you're going to be at your actual mechanical timing. And there's several ways to do this. The first time I ever did it, I actually took out these two 8mm bolts, which would be right there to release my tensioner. Because on the 01 to 04s, they don't have the keylet type tensioner that will release a key and allow me to slide this in really easy. This is just a press to fit, so it's actually a super pain in the ass, but it works a little better. But so at this point, what I'll usually do is I'll end up having to stick something like another pry bar in right around here on the top of the cog, and then or even around on this side, and you're going to want to pry this out gently. So once you're able to pull in from right here, you're going to notice usually the bottom will pull out just a little bit. And then every time it pulls out, you never want to go too far. So this just nudged out a little bit, and then you're going to nudge out the top just a little bit, like that. And then you're going to nudge out the bottom. And then you're going to nudge out the top. Nudge out the bottom. Top. Bottom. And released. So with that, your timing is sitting off, and I'm able to pull off my chain and my cogs. So the reason why I like the pushrod motors over the overhead cam motors is because of how simple this design is. There's not a chain system going up to each head, where in the overhead cams, there's going to be a camshaft in each head, where this camshaft is within the block. So instead of having multiple chain systems that are a fail system within an engine, it's just going to be one short, stout chain that you can really reinforce the living shit out of to make your engine as mechanically sound as you can. So now that we're at this point where we have pulled out both the cogs, usually what I'll do is kind of like near them near the edge, and I'll get a bag ready, like these gallon Ziploc baggies. Before I ever do a big engine rebuild, I'm always going to get a great big box of the full-size gallon Ziploc baggies for stuff like this. And then what you're going to want to do is I'll usually mark out so I know that, and then when I pinch it, you just pinch it from the bottom and top and slowly slide the top off. And then as you do, it's going to cinch down towards the bottom and keep the whole thing together. And that's going to be all your timing right there. So usually, I mean, I've wrapped a hair binder around that before to keep it right there. I've wrapped tape around it. But nowadays, I can usually just kind of put her in the bag and keep moving. So with this, I really try not to remove this piece, because this is the only difficult part of timing this vehicle is actually this tensioner. And it only is affected by the 01 to 04, 3.8 and 3.9 fixed style tensioners, where with this one, there's no key type to, I can put it back and push it further, and then make it with a key press type to the chain, where with this style, it's basically flexing. You just got to really kind of push it in to get it in that when you reload the camshaft. The first time I didn't know that, and it really was just a super pain in the ass, because I had to take out these two bolts, and when you put it back on, you're going to notice that this is one of the hardest bolts to get to in the car. You're going to need either like a wobble socket or like a 8mm with shaved tips to kind of get in at this one around the edge of the chain and make sure it's safe. And being in the position that it's at, you really want to make sure that, you know, this is perfect. So with the way I've just showed you, I will leave the tensioner on, but I'm able to understand that it's a flex type tensioner, where if I'm ever having trouble with that chain, I'm able to stick my pry bar once again in the back behind here and just kind of, you know, flex it in, so that when I put the chain back on, it goes on nice and easy, and we're able to leave the tensioner on the engine. So with this, we're actually at the crankshaft and the main caps and the oil pan. So if I wanted to, I could remove the oil pan main caps, and the bearing crankshaft would come right out. But right now, today, we are actually looking at, this would be what is the balance shaft cog. So when you see them, this is going to have the dimple facing up with the dimple of the balance shaft as well facing down, so they are met and married perfectly. So with this part, it's just another press to fit. So actually, all I'm going to have to do is just kind of pull it out. And once again, note that orientation. I already know all this by heart, because I've done this so many times. I'm really just making videos for you guys. So I'll place that once again in the bag. So now that I'm down to this point, this is a point that comes near and dear to my heart, because last time I tried to shoot this video, I stripped this bolt out and I had to get a welder in here, and it really pissed me off. So now that I'm at the camshaft thrust plate bolts, I'm not positive, but I think it's, yep, T30. So once again, that T30 Torx bit is going to come in handy, and you're going to be able to remove the camshaft thrust plate. So when you're doing this engine, the one thing that you never want to cross is these two things. This balance shaft and this balance shaft cog are married to the model year, and if you separate them, I believe in, I forgot what year it is, but it may be 03, maybe 04, maybe 02, maybe 01, but one year these swap out from, I believe, to from a 28 spline to a 31 spline, or the other way around. So just basically when you're doing your engine swaps, you want to make sure that you're keeping these two cogs on the same motor. So if you swap this one out, you got to have that one on it too. If you swap that one out, you got to have that one on it too. Didn't want to miss that part in the balance shaft. But so now that we are down to the thrust plate, I have removed both the T30 Torx. You're able to pull off the camshaft thrust plate, and you are at the camshaft. So from this part right here, a lot of people use like a screwdriver or something. I don't even think I freaking have one. So we just do this shit in garages anyways, and you just kind of pull it out. And what happens is as soon as you slide it past this first lobe, it's able to fall down into the camshaft bearing race. And you don't want it to clunk into each one as it comes out. That's why people will stick the screwdriver in there to make sure that it's safe as you pull the camshaft out. But instead, today we are just going to, knowing that that's how it works, levitate it, be real gentle. And remove the camshaft. And that's how you remove the camshaft in a 1999 to 2004 Ford Mustang V6. It's going to be basically somewhat within limitations, same for all engines. And then from here on out, I'm going to, get my new camshaft and start heading back in. So as you go, it's the same way in. Number one, don't check your bearings, your camshaft bearings, because otherwise you're going to want to change them, and then you're going to be in a load of shit, and then you're just going to say, fuck this. So that's why they say don't change them. Using the same method, just return this into the engine. No, I'm just kidding. If your camshaft bearings are shot, change that shit. With that, we have swapped the camshaft. So in my next video, I'm going to go through the procedure of how you're going to install the camshaft. But this is just how to get through the front cover, get through the timing components with them all bagged and ready to go with everything marked, and your Woodruff keys now, and how that's all going to go together. So I wanted to thank you guys for tuning in, and I'm going to get you guys some more timing by hand videos on the way out. Stay tuned for more tech support.